Welcome again to WGONradio.com and 15 Minutes of Fact, and I am your host, Jerry Ashton. 15 Minutes of Fact is a series of interviews with people either directly involved in the Occupy Wall Street movement or people in causes which reflect the basic principles espoused by OWS, fairness and justice being at the top of that list. So today's guest will serve as an example of how the media gets it all wrong in the main when they are reporting on complaints by workers against their employers for workplace issues such as racial discrimination, safety, or unhealthy work environments. If you don't know what that has to do with Occupy Wall Street, stick around. Our subject is Sandra Walker. She's a 46-year-old African-American single mom, homeowner, currently an employee of the Coca-Cola Refreshments, that's called CCR. It's a subsidiary of the Coca-Cola Company, and she's been with CCR for over 13 years. What makes her of interest for this program is that for the last 11 of these years, Sandra has been subjected to racial discrimination and targeted by management for speaking out against injustices against other minority co-workers and herself. In Sandra's case, she cited as causes of discrimination, race, and retaliation. How did she come to this point? And does she have grounds? We'll find out more today, and welcome to the show today, Sandra.
Hi, Jerry. Thank you for having me.
Happy to have you here. Now, Sandra, I know that you filed an EEOC complaint on November 23rd, 2011 against Coca-Cola. You were one of 16 workers at 3 separate plants that filed complaints that day, and the New York Daily News has dubbed you guys as the Coca-Cola 16 for this effort. So however tempting, I will do my best not to get mired in the details. For those who are interested, I believe they can be found in complaints filed with the Supreme Court in Queens, New York. Rather, my interest is in getting to know you better and to get the more human side of the story. So, when the New York Daily News picked up on this item, they reported that you said that when you were hired as a merchandiser at the Maspeth plant in New York, you felt like you'd hit the lotto because Coca-Cola is such a prestigious company. Is that true, and do you still feel that way?
Oh, definitely. When I first arrived at Coca-Cola, I was very excited, very inspired that I knew I was going to do better. But today, as we speak, no, I don't feel that way anymore.
Well, the logical question is, or the statement is, I can understand why. The Daily News article went on to say that you claimed that you'd never been called so many names. As example, and this is distasteful to me, Nappy Head, Aunt Jemima. One white worker even showed up on the job wearing a Confederate flag on his head. Now, how could this not have been considered inflammatory and racial by management there?
Well, I guess it's the mindset of the environment that we work in, and a lot of stuff that similar to what you're saying is acceptable in the workplace.
Well, not only in the workplace. We're almost like fish swimming in water. We don't even realize the racial overtones, the way of seeing things and being. What our listeners should already know is that racial discrimination is not a now and then thing. It's pervasive. In 2011, the New York Police Department made more stops of black men under their stop and frisk laws than the total number of young black men in New York City. I don't think that was by accident.
Definitely not.
Well, in your
Definitely not.
Without necessarily getting into the details, what do you think is the difference between Coca-Cola in its public image and Coca-Cola as it exists in the real world of plant life?
Well, in the real world, Coca-Cola is displayed as, all-American, and we don't mind sponsoring and showing up at events to say who we are and how long we existed, but behind the door, there's another set of rules that go on in the plants where the people that make the soda, are treated in a very unprofessional, very unethical manner.
Well, I know at one point in time you were assigned to the job of filler operator, and I believe that was a form of retaliation. So could you describe to our listeners how that came about and what that work comprised?
Oh, definitely. Well, I was assigned to that filler back in 2010 after I had somewhat of a altercation with a supervisor, being unfair and treating me in a disparate way as far as catering to my white coworkers, and I called him out about it, and he basically felt like I was disrespectful to him, and he screamed out that I said he was a dead man, and I got suspended, and I stayed home for 5 weeks, and when I came back, before I left, I was a forklift driver for like 8 or 9 years, and when I came back, they assigned me to the filler, and the filler, what we do is bottle the soda there, and there's cameras all throughout the building, and mainly in that room, and they put me there to punish me and to take away my driving rights, which I never had an accident, and I'm like one of the best drivers in the plant, and dependable and reliable, but till this day, I am still standing in front of the filler.
Well, if I remember the details of the story, what you did was to call the white employee a racist. What he did was to twist that or interpret it as being you're a dead man, and even though there were 5 witnesses that later stepped up to support the fact that you had said only one thing and not the other, you were still given a 5-week suspension, and that was without pay. Am I correct?
That's correct. That's correct. Absolutely. And they had me sit home for 5 weeks without pay, according to Article 20 in our union handbook. That's why I was out on Article 20 is when you either stole something from Coca-Cola or you threatened someone, which is a serious charge where it can lead up to termination. And when I was brought back, I filed a grievance to retrieve my money back, and I was told that it was just warrant, and that was it. 2 words on a grievance response was just warrant. And I went in with the union delegate, and basically it was like, be happy to have a job, go back to work. I never saw arbitration. They changed the charges on the write-up. It turned into something totally different from what alleged I said to this supervisor, which I did not say.
Well, let us say that, just for the sake of arguments, you're absolutely correct. I believe that you are. The thing is that people who are listening to this program need to understand is that given the fact that in the world of protests and occupiers, where people are marching for rights, marching for fairness, speaking truth to power is a powerful saying, but when you actually did speak truth to power, what good did it do you?
When I did speak the truth about the situation that happened with the supervisor, and with honesty, I was retaliated against targeted by management, human resources, and I was told that I'd be working on this filler, and some of the coworkers that worked there that were in agreement with this particular supervisor, they were saying things like, you're going to be there for indefinite, that's going to be your job, you're never going to drive a forklift again, which they're partially right because I have not been back on a forklift since 2010.
Well, I know that what you've been going through for the last number of years has taken its toll on you, just as it would on anyone. And I believe you've been seeing a therapist for a couple of years due to this cruel environment, suffering psychological trauma. So what I think our listener needs to understand is that this is not the first time or place that Coca-Cola has received negative press. On the website killercoke.org, their lead-off story is on allegedly murdered union leaders in Colombia and Guatemala, and cites other abuses by Coca-Cola in countries like India, El Salvador, Turkey, China, and then, of course, what's going on right here in the United States. There were other people that joined in the suit with you. They had other complaints. What was their take on the problems with Coca-Cola?
Oh, wow. We have people in our suit that have unfair wages where they overlooked for promotions. We have people in our group that were singled out because of their because of their background and where they come from, not necessarily African American, but different islands of the world, like Haiti, Africa, the Dominican Republic.
And was there Hispanic Hispanic as well?
Hispanic, yes, definitely. We have all, El Salvador, Ecuador, Puerto Rico. It's just awful the way that the people are treated differently because of, I've seen it firsthand, the mistreatment of the workers and the jobs that they assigned them to where they would not assign a white person to. Till this day, even though this lawsuit is going on, they are still degrading and belittling the workers in the plant. They will assign them to things that they would not assign a white person to, such as pallet repair. When you repair pallets for the sodas to encase on the pallet, the machine actually is doing it, but somebody has to repair the pallets for the sodas to actually sit on the pallet, and that's usually a black person. They usually never, ever put a white person on pallet repair.
Well, I do know that the famous union activist Ray Rogers got into a tiff with Coca-Cola CEO Muhtar Kent at the Coke's annual meeting on April 25. Did you see the video on that, and what was your impression of what was taking place?
Absolutely. Absolutely. When I saw the video, I was appalled. I was just beside myself. I could not believe that Muhtar Kent, which I never met, is so shallow, is so, it's like saying racism doesn't exist anywhere in the world, especially not in Coca-Cola. Why do they think they're so different and the outside world is experiencing this type of behavior, but Coca-Cola has no knowledge and they don't tolerate that type of behavior? They encourage that type of behavior.
Well, that might be a little strong. That might be a little strong to say they encourage it. But the very fact that it happens and it's not corrected doesn't exactly speak well for them. So, have when they got into that tiff and they argued about the legitimacy of complaints of people like yourself against maltreatment and bad working conditions, and worse, at the Coca-Cola plants, did I understand that they had several Coca-Cola employees standing there saying, "Oh no, these people are wrong." What was your take on that?
It wasn't a very positive statement, that's for sure. Those people that went to that shareholders meeting in Atlanta are people that have said in the past and complained in the past about this one and that one is racist. But that'll come out later in the lawsuit. And I'm like, why are those people there? I mean, those two particular or three particular people there to represent or to contradict what we're saying.
So what you're saying is that basically these hand-picked people were brought down by Coca-Cola to balance what you folks had to say.
Exactly. And also, you know, it just looks so ridiculous for the simple fact, why pick two black people and one Latino? Why not pick white people to go that are more senior?
Well, I think that they probably chose wisely for the work that they were doing. So what are the conditions that you're aware of in the plants right now for you and the others who did become part of the lawsuit? What came about when that lawsuit was filed?
Wow. When that lawsuit finally, it was rumored around that, you know, I was suing Coca-Cola. It was all about Sandra Walker. You know, I'm the ringleader. That's what I'm told. The workers, the ones that have been brainwashed and coerced, do not talk to us. They are told that we are bad people and that, you know, you have a good job. Why are you complaining? This stuff does not exist. It's always the person that's not getting the maltreatment or being treated unfairly. Those are the people that I never had any problems with at the workplace. All of a sudden, they are non-existent in my life, in the workplace. And you go there and you don't even want to go.
So you're pretty much shunned. Well, that's got to be difficult
right,
in itself.
Blacklisted.
Well, one of the reasons for this interview is to serve as a wake-up call for those who aren't awake and a reminder call for those who are awake that things are not the way that they appear, that more work has got to be done in Coca-Cola as well as other companies in the United States and around the world to eliminate discrimination, to eliminate the conditions that your lawsuit is bringing to everyone's attention. So in order to complete this interview, I want to thank you so much for being the spokesperson. How tall are you, by the way?
I'm 5'4".
I figured a big old ringleader like you would probably come in and take over this interview, but you've been very gentle with me, and I want to thank you for that.
You're welcome, Jerry. I appreciate you so much for having me on.
Well, I appreciate you, and I also appreciate the fact that if the people who are listening to this would like to know more about it, more details on the story can be learned by writing info@killercoke.org, KILLERCOKE.org, or calling 718-852-2808. This is Jerry Ashton signing off for WGRNradio.com and 15 Minutes of Fact.